Hi everybody, I'm Manorama. Welcome to the class. This is a little impromptu. I keep trying to find when is the right time to have the class, and I must have written 1,000 Rona posts to then let y'all know about it, but it just never seems to be exactly perfect, so I'm just jumping on while I have the time. So I want to welcome you all here today. I am Manorama, and this is a Sanskrit Studies and Luminous Soul session. And as I was I guess as I was energizing on what to focus on with everybody today, I was thinking about how the holidays are coming. As soon as our Halloween passes, we're going to start to feel the, feeling a little hot here. As soon as Halloween passes, we're going to start to feel the holiday pressure. And it occurred to me that maybe it would be helpful for everybody to learn a little bit about how to manage stress. How to have some stress management. And it seems to me that most people kind of associate stress management with like having less things happen in their life, right? And I don't know a lot of people who have less things happening in their life. I mean, nowadays it seems like wherever people live in the world, you could live in Kathmandu and there still is a certain measure of stress. Part of it is because of I'm just going to move this a little bit. Part of it is because of our globalization, which is wonderful in certain ways, and in other ways just demands that we be available much more readily, more frequently, and that we're in contact with so many more people than we normally would be. So we hear about a lot more happening in the world, and that just kind of boosts our contact, and our stress. But some of us have really real stressful experiences happening in our lives. Some of us have real stressful experiences happening in our lives. You could be experiencing maybe some health scare of your own. You could be worrying about something to do with a parent. I've heard a lot of people recently talking about how a parent is not feeling so well. You could just be taxing your system by not getting enough exercise, getting enough fresh air. I make sure I get fresh air and some exercise every day. So I thought we could start the topic. I don't think today's mini Periscope is going to be an exhaustive topic on this. I think it's just to get us started, but it's at least something to start energizing on and considering over the next few weeks as we move into November or holiday time and then into December. Okay, so I'm going to put this board up and you can take a snapshot of it if it works for you. All right, so this is the stress management. Let's see if you can get a snapshot of that. These were just some items, and this is not an exhaustive list, but this is a good beginning step. Stress management. I think most of us tend to assume that stress is kind of something that happens to us. But stress management is actually the way we perceive what is happening to us and how we respond to it. Stress management is the way we perceive things that are happening to us and how we respond to it. Okay, so stress management isn't like make sure nothing stressful happens to you, because it's just not humanly possible. And so I put a couple things down. Number one, I said it's important for us to identify areas. So what I mean by that is identify, where did I put my pen? Here it is. Identify the area that is creating stress. And when you identify it, it's not going to make it more stressful, right? So most of us get a little afraid to identify areas that create stress, because if we do, then it's going to make us like, it's going to make me more stressed to know that I'm stressed, right? But it's actually the opposite. If you can identify the area, let's say you have a parent who is not feeling so well and you need to be devoting more time to that, or you're being called to devote more time to that, recognizing that that is a stressor is actually in your favor. It's like, oh, okay, this is a stress. This is an added stress, right? Maybe you have some changes in your job or in your health or in a friend, etc., right? So identify the areas. Try when you identify not to judge the areas. The judgment, you can do it another time if that's what you want to do, but don't do it while you're working with this as a conscious action of stress management, right? Just be like, okay, this is an area I can identify that brings me stress. And I guess the question becomes, what is an area that you can identify as stress? Well, any area that pulls you away from yourself. You say, that could be like anything that happens to me, Manorama. But I want you to think about this, that an area of stress is an area that pulls you away from yourself, right? So like when we spend time with friends, sometimes we find, oh, it's incredibly nourishing because it doesn't pull us away from ourself. It doesn't pull us away from ourself. And so anything that pulls you away from yourself has a potential stressor, just like foods that pull us away from the natural harmonic digestive process can be a stressor on the body, or that puts pressure on the system. Okay, so the first step, and we're just going over a few suggestions today through Luminous Soul, but the first step is to identify the area of stress. And again, I want to remind you, you don't want to, when you identify the area of stress, you don't want to move into judgment. Let's say, your child is causing you stress. You don't want to then move into judgment about the child or your parent or an illness or a financial situation. You just want to recognize it, identify it, because that will give you, okay, this is a stressor. So actually, let's do that right now. Take a minute, just right now, get a piece of paper. I only have a little Post-it here. But I want you to write down 3 things that strike you as highly stressful in your life right now, or that you see oncoming. Just take a moment. Identify an area of stress so that it's not random and it's not happening at you, right? You can just be like, oh, yes, that has a stress to it. Okay, so I'd like to hear somebody, 1 or 2 of you can share just one area that creates stress. You could say children, you could say education, finances. What do you think? Okay, so while you all are coming up with your ideas of what is creating newness of a romantic relationship. It's funny that you say that, right? So most people think that like a new romantic relationship is incredibly nourishing, and in many ways it is, but it can also be stressful. It can bring up fears about future. It can bring up stresses because you're having to adjust and you're having to accommodate and what is the word? Compromise, different things. So it's incredibly nourishing if it's right, but it can also be, there can be some stresses associated with it, right? Some fears and things that come up, okay? So, yeah, I send you hearts too. So you identify a stress, right? And it's funny, it doesn't have to mean that you judge the stress. Like, how can I feel this way? I'm so bad for feeling this way when it's such a wonderful thing. Just identify it. Just identify it clean. And then we move into the second, practice conscious breathing and meditation. Now, I've gone into this extensively in other, I was going to say podcasts, but in other periscopes, right? But what you want to do is, so you identify the area that's causing stress without judgment. The second is you just practice some basic conscious breathing. How many people just alone practice throughout the day conscious breathing, where you catch yourself and you just breathe in and breathe out consciously? How many people who know about meditation actually sit and watch the mind? So I'll speak more about this in future periscopes, but this is one step you can do. Another is you can feel your feet underneath you. It sounds funny, but when you identify a stress, and then if the stressor is activated in you, and you can feel that, because remember what I defined as stress. Stress is something that takes you away from yourself. So away from connection with yourself, right? So when you have some kind of feeling where you feel disconnected, catch the feeling. Catch that sensation. And then also what I want you to do is feel your feet underneath you. Some man just asked me to please speak in Hindi from Twitter. I'm unable to speak in Hindi, sir. I'm sorry. or ma'am, I'm not sure who, but I don't speak Hindi. Okay, so feel your feet underneath you. Feel, it's a huge thing. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to show you. You can do the same thing. Just sounds funny, but yeah, throw some hearts for that. But just feel your feet underneath you right now. Just be like, okay, my feet right underneath me. So you've got conscious breathing. You've got meditation. You've got feel your feet underneath you, right? And then I said, boost your diet. Believe it or not, most people run on fumes, or they push their diet to a point where, you know, they're stressed, so they reach for something that looks on the surface good because it's tasty and it's got some sweetness in it. And I'm not against any sugar, but I am saying that in general, we tend to eat things that are not often in our best interest. So take a look at your diet and find a way that you can actually infuse it with more whole foods. If you don't know what whole foods is, you want to look into that. Make that a little project. What is whole foods, right? What does it mean to eat a whole foods diet? You know, it means much less packaged items and much more cooking at home. And I know when I met my teacher, cooking was quite foreign to me because my mom just didn't cook very much. And when she did, love my mom, but she wasn't a very good cook. She became good later, but she wasn't. She just kind of, it was something you had to do. But you know, get into that kitchen, make something, anything, look up probiotics, give yourself some kind of health boost that will actually take some stress off of you. You want to find ways to take elements off of you. So you identify the stressor. You put in place deep breathing, maybe 2 times. It's such a simple practice. And oftentimes it's so simple that we just kind of slough it off, right? Practice meditation. Just the act alone of sitting still and determining yourself to reconnect with yourself, that alone is huge. Not forget about whether you're doing it right or wrong. Just sit there, and that is a huge reconnector. And then feel your feet underneath you. It's a very small thing to do, but it's incredibly grounding. And then another thing you can do is, and you can pick from any of these, or you can do them in succession, boost your diet. And what I mean by that is pick, you know, maybe you need to add a supplement, or maybe you need more water, or maybe you notice you haven't been having breakfast lately, and that would give you a little more stable energy up till about noon. Whatever it is, boost your diet. You know that will help you and give you some support. Boost it in a healthy, natural, whole food sort of way. And there are so many more things I can add to this list, but I want to add a final, which is sleep is important. Sleep is important. And what I mean by that is so often people don't get good sleep. If you're not getting good sleep, throw me some hearts. Let me see. How many of you are not getting the best sleep that you'd like to be getting? Either you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not getting the kind of sleep you want. Yeah, I'm getting some hearts here, you see. So how can you work with sleep? Well, I'm gonna just say a couple of things. Again, each one of these topics I need to speak more thoroughly on and give whole periscopes just on each one of these and workshops. But I want you to consider your sleep. Take a moment right now just to write down whether your sleep is where you want it to be. In other words, are you getting 8 to 9 hours a night? And if you're kind of one of those people who's like, 8 to 9 hours, what planet do you live on? How many hours are you getting? You know, I did this exercise sometime back. People would always say, how much water do you drink? And I'd be like, oh, 8 glasses a day. I knew that was the number you had to drink. So after saying that like 12 times, because I drank 8 glasses, I started actually testing myself by like checking off every glass I drank for a couple of days. In the first couple of days, it was like 3-4 glasses. And I was like, oh, there's something wrong with this. I'm just not logging it in. I must not be noticing it. I started to notice after 2 weeks, I didn't drink enough water. And I was so surprised. So I now check off the amount of water, and I'm very conscious, and I make sure to have definitely 8 glasses of water a day. I notice a huge difference in my energy level. So it's the same with sleep. How much are you sleeping? Can you pay attention? Some of you may be like, I didn't get any sleep last night. It's not, again, another new area for you to judge yourself, but it's looking at ways that you can get proper sleep. Now, if you're a mother of a newborn or a father of a newborn and it's harder for you to get sleep, or your kid is unwell, you're going to have to modulate this, right? So maybe you'll have to insert some naps. But in general, you want to start to pay attention to how to get healthy rest so that you can let the whole system relax, your mental system and your physical system take some deep rest. Some simple things you can do is just add lavender into your routine at night. I take that about an hour before I go to sleep, and just start wrapping up a lot earlier. Like I tend to not do work after 8 o'clock, and usually before that. But if there's a couple days here and there that I'll be doing something, but in general, I keep my eye on it and I keep it in balance so that it's not every day, right? So keep your eye on that sleep and start to notice, do a little experimenting, like, gee, how much sleep am I getting? Because as we move into the holidays and we have more pressures on us, all of us will have that, look to ways that you can support yourself and stay connected, listening to your body, listening to your emotional body as well, and finding ways to support yourself. Okay, do I have any questions from anybody today? If so, what are they? One of my favorite de-stressors, I've told you guys this before, is I buy myself little flowers. Aren't these pretty? These are little tea roses. I just like to have colorful flowers around. Okay, any questions? And again, we're going to talk more about this as we move closer to the holidays. Of course, I can talk about Sanskrit, I can talk about mantra and meditation, but I wanted to just give you some simple things. Pay attention to what is causing stress without judging it. Just own it. Maybe it's school. You just started school or a new class and it's just amped up your schedule a little bit, right? Or, as you said, having a new relationship in your life that can create some stress, or not having a relationship for some people can feel like, oh my gosh, I really want one. Okay, practice conscious breathing regularly each day. Even once a day is going to make a difference. You'll notice your energy level. Then I had number 3 was feel your feet. Pretty regularly, just feel your feet underneath you. So you've identified the stressor without judgment. You've practiced conscious breathing and or meditation. And then you're just feeling your feet as you're walking around throughout your day. You're like, okay, I'm here. Because when you feel your feet, you're going to become present. You're going to become conscious and in the moment with yourself. And that's always de-stressing. Okay, 4 I said was to boost your diet, and what I meant by that was take a look at areas of stress, craving times when you're putting in more sugars, or when the wheat content starts to rise a little too high, and start to decrease some of those elements and put in some more whole foods, more sustaining foods. We want to get more. We're so addicted to flavor and taste, and I love flavor too. Like, flavor's great, but we have to, in order to be healthy, get really interested in the feeling of high energy, the feeling of profound support. Okay, and I'll speak more about this in the coming weeks. And then, of course, sleep is so important. So your job right now isn't to change your sleep, but just to go, oh, Manorama says sleep is important. Like, who doesn't say that? But I want you to take a look at how much you are sleeping and what is the quality of your sleep like, and what small things you can do to put better sleep into place. In other words, my cats, for example, they are so snuggly. So they help me go to sleep. But then at around 4 a.m., not every night, but about 2 out of 4 nights, they go loco. And they climb on my head and they jump around and they kind of play with each other. And it wakes me up and it doesn't give me the best sleep. So in order to have better sleep, I have made the conscious choice to remove my cats from my bedroom. So I give them lots of attention before, so that they're not craving and feeling rejected or anything. But then I make sure that I have that space for myself, right? I have tea, some quieting chamomile tea, not too close to bedtime because it makes you have to go pee, but some quieting. Sometimes people like to have a little lemon. I need to do a Periscope where I teach you about this amazing, what do you call it? It's It's like a tea made with turmeric and ginger. So I'll talk about that another time, but that's also wonderful. And some other Ayurvedic practices. But taking a look at your sleep, adding in some essential oils. They're so popular now, you know, using that lavender that you actually bought a couple months ago and just putting it, you know, dabbing it here and here, inhaling it, and just making that conscious effort to let go of whatever it is you're doing around, you know, 9 o'clock. It's like time to let go of that. 8 o'clock, whatever is your cutoff point, but decide that in advance. So those are my suggestions for beginning stress management. There's a lot of ways that we can sort of talk about this, and we will. But this is sort of a beginning opener of this dialogue. And I'll be speaking more, but work with some of these tips this week. Okay, everybody? Any questions before we close? Okay, the only announcement that I have for today's class, I will be in San Marcos, Texas, at the Yoga School of San Marcos. I always forget if it's the Yoga School of San Marcos. I have the jacket. Okay, hold on, it's going to tell me for some reason. Yes, I can't wait to be there. The San Marcos School of Yoga, which is my dear friend and beloved dear friend, Christina Sell, her beautiful center with her husband Kelly. And that's just outside of Austin, Texas, and I'll be there speaking about the Bhagavad Gita and the warrior within. So if you'd like to go a little deeper into that and you're going to be in that area, or you just want to pop over and see me, please do. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday, and I look forward to seeing those of you who will be there. For now, I'm going to sign off, send you all my love in our little impromptu Periscope session. If you haven't joined me on Facebook, come on over to Manorama. She's just, the name is spelled Manorama. Join me at Manorama9 on Instagram and Sanskrit Studies at Twitter. Those are just some channels you can connect with me. And I look forward to seeing you all again in class soon. Be blessed, everybody. And remember, you are beautiful, powerful, and you are free. And you have the capacity to make real change and to create a sense of inner balance in yourself by engaging very specific actions that, and creating commitments in your own choices that will really support you, you know, to create these commitments through your choices that will support your life and your sense of grounding and your management of stress. And it won't be that stress is just coming at you. It's actually going to be you managing it. Okay? Be blessed, everybody. Mwah! Have a beautiful rest of your day. Lots of love, everybody. Thank you so much. You're most welcome, Gita. Thank you. Thank you all.